my name is Sherry, and today I'm going to show you how to make a mask out of some t-shirts in your house. Many people, the crafter world at least, has been busy at work for the past few weeks making masks for people in their community. As the conversation begins to change in the United States, thinking all of us should be wearing masks, a lot of people are scrambling now to find the right materials. Many of the online tutorial videos recommend using elastic on the edges, and if you've been looking online, there is no elastic left in any of the stores. The crafters were a few weeks ahead of us. So I am going to show you how to make a mask using an old t-shirt. The materials you'll need today, this does require a sewing machine. It requires an old t-shirt, and you will need enough fabric for 2 6x9 pieces. I made a little piece of paper just to use as my pattern, just to measure your fabric. So here we go. So I've laid my t-shirt out, and I like having a pattern. Again, this is a piece of paper that is 6x9 inches, just so I can really guesstimate how many masks I'll be able to make out of one t-shirt. It feels a little bit sacrilegious to destroy a shirt when I know that this could go to another child. But this is a little bit of a raggedy shirt, and it has been well loved, so it looks like I'll probably be able to get probably 3 masks out of this. And one thing we want to be aware of is the stretchiness, or what we call the selvage. And in many t-shirts, the stretchiness is really across, and so the horizontal 9-inch side, we always want to try to cut our fabric so that the stretchiness is going along the longer side of it. So on this particular t-shirt, and probably most shirts, you're going to lay it across like this, so the horizontal goes just like this, if that makes sense. And we're going to cut 2 full pieces around. You might want to mark it first, or whatever is the best way for you to cut it. I'm going to stretch my creativity here, and I have an old pair of my daughter's leggings that have holes in them, so that was what I'm going to use instead to make this mask today. And again, I've got my little handy dandy 6-inch by 9-inch pattern, so I can measure to see before I start cutting to make sure I have enough fabric. Again, you'll need 2 pieces of it, and again, you want to be aware of the stretchiness in this. So I'm going to do that right now, and then I'm going to cut out this fabric. Okay, so I've cut my 2 pieces of fabric and laid them face in. So I've got the back side and back side, but now here's the cool part, and if your fabric has a little bit of stretchiness in it, like some spandex, that will make this next part of the project even better. Here's what I'm going to do, and this is the part that is going to be in place of the elastic on the edges of the mask. I'm cutting some long strips, and we don't have to be perfect just because perfection in a pandemic just doesn't match up. I'm going to cut some strips. We will want them to be about 7 inches. Mine might be a little bit longer because I'm just cutting up to where there's a hole in this little pair of pants here. And again, this is the stretchy side, but as I stretch it out and then it goes back into place, it almost just created a nice little rounded piece of elastic. Pretty nifty, right? So we want to measure this to be 7 inches, and we're going to need 2 of those for the edges of our mask. And I'm going to show you, now we're going to hop over to my sewing machine, how to attach all of this together, okay? So now you'll need 2 pieces of fabric, and you can pin these guys. I haven't pinned it yet, but you can see I put the inside of the fabric pieces together. We're going to sew around the edges of the back side, and we'll need 2 pieces of stretchy material that we're going to attach to the side that we will be able to use as sort of like in place of the elastic, okay? Okay, so we are all ready to sew. I have pinned together front side to front side my 6x9-inch material. I'm going to start on the horizontal side about halfway through. That is where we will start sewing, and when we get to the first corner we're going to stop. So here we go. And I'm using the edge of the material and my foot just to measure. Not being perfect here. but pretty darn close. Okay, so I'm keeping my needle in, and I'm gonna lift my foot up. I'm gonna rotate this, and I'm going to take one of my pieces of stretchy fabric, unravel it a little bit, and stick it in this corner right here as best as you can. Put it in between those two pieces of fabric. And then I'm gonna carefully tuck the remainder of it all the way over here into my fabric so that I don't sew over it more than once. So up here, this is going to keep my, it's going to attach or be sewn in. That's the top part of the elastic, okay? Make sure everything is lined up still. If you really want to be a perfectionist, you can pin this. Don't forget to put your foot back down. I'm going to go over a little bit of an angle and then come back up here, so all the way down the vertical side. But then I'll stop maybe 3/4 of an inch before I get to the end. And I'm going to pick up the edge of this. So you can think it's going to look like a half circle when we turn it around. I'm going to open it up a little bit just because my sewing machine doesn't like it too many layers of fabric together. And I'm going to sew all the way to the end. Okay, let's put your needle back in there and turn the whole thing so that you're going to sew down a vertical side. Again, move that little elastic piece out of the way so you make sure you don't sew over it again. I'm going to scoot it way over. Okay, and here we go. We're going to sew all the way down this vertical side. Some people don't ever try these stretchy fabrics because stretchy fabric is a little bit unruly. But strange times call for strange measures. Oh, look, I'm not doing such a good job here. Okay. Here we go. There's such a shortage of masks, I think. Even if you give an imperfect mask to one of your friends, they'll be delighted to have a handmade mask by you and delighted to have a mask. Okay, here we go. So we're at the next corner. We're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to take my string, or my elastic piece. I'm going to put one edge of it right at the corner. I'm going to unravel mine a little bit just so it doesn't get overwhelmed with too many layers of fabric bunched up together. Make sure you move that all the way tucked in to between the two pieces of fabric so you don't sew over it more than once. Put your foot back down, sew over that. And again, I'm going to lift my foot up. I'm going to put the other edge of this piece of our elastic. I'm going to open it up a little bit, close it, put my foot back down, sew over that. And then once your needle's in, I'm going to turn it again. So we're getting close. We want to leave an opening so we can turn this in right side out, right side in, whatever. We're going to turn it around completely. So maybe sew, I don't know, an inch or two. Okay, I will back stitch a little bit, even though we're going to stitch once we get it open on the other side. Okay, so now you might want to take your pins out. You might want to cut off some extra string or not. And here we go. We're going to turn this whole thing right side out with that little hole. And it looks like you have the beginnings of a mask. There's your elastic pieces on each end. And we aren't quite done. Now comes a really important part, and the what could be the most frustrating part of this. We're going to add some pleats into it, as you see on most medical masks. Looking pretty cute there. Okay, so I'm gonna pause it and we will show you how to make the pleats. Okay, for our next part of this is the hardest part of the mask. We are going to make 3 pleats going up. So we're going to grab the fabric, maybe an inch down, bunch it up and just sort of smush it up. Stick a pin in, do like my technical talk. Do it again, maybe go down about 2 inches, grab a piece of the fabric, move it up. If you're a perfectionist, this is not the right video for you. You might want to tune in to somewhere else. And then we're going to maybe go down another 1.5 inches, grab another piece of fabric and go down again. Make sure your pins are far enough away that it won't get in the way of your needles when you're sewing with your machine. My machine does not like to go over heavy stuff. The fabric feels a little thicker with this fabric on the side, so I'm gonna go probably 1/2 inch in when I sew. It won't look like it was bought in a store, but it will look like it was made with a lot of love. Okay, now I'm gonna go over to my other side of my mask and follow along that line and do the same thing with some pins so that we've got the pleats on both sides. Again, we're not going for perfection, we're going for utility and I guess sort of speed, even though we all have a million hours in our day now for the most part. Okay, unless you're in the medical profession and then you don't have any time and you don't have any masks, so we're being helpful either way and not being perfectionists. So there we go. One other piece of this is you want to be aware of is the part that we have that hole that we turned inside out. Just fold those edges down and you will be sewing over it. So the next thing we're going to do is sew all the way around the edge. You might want to go 2 times just because it looks a little bit nicer. You might want to use the same color thread, different color thread, whatever you think looks the nicest. Okay, so here we go. We're ready to sew now that we have our pleats pinned. I'm going to start on the bottom corner. Just because the pleats are a little bit challenging to go over, so this seems like the least intimidating part of the mask to start on. I will start with the reverse stitch. Don't forget to put your foot down. There we go. Needle back in, turn it this way, and I noticed in the first few masks I made that because I put my pins farther down, I sort of have to hold this fabric just to make sure it keeps the pleats. It seems like the masks I made that didn't have the pleats, it didn't feel as nice. So here we go. Watch your fingers. Okay, when we get to this part, again, be aware of the folded piece. Okay. Here we go. The center lines are not so straight. But again, that's okay. You'll probably get better with every single mask that you make. now we're at the end. Let's make sure we reverse stitch. Pull it out from your machine. Okay, and now we are almost finished with our mask. The last thing we will need to do is pull out our pins and leave them somewhere safe so you don't step on them. Okay, and okay, so here is our completed mask. Let's give it a try. Yeah, pretty good. This is comfortable. This is not perfect, not designed for a medical establishment like operating on somebody or wearing in a hospital, but for wearing out to the store or out on a walk, this is pretty darn perfect. It's soft, it's washable, and I know many people are starting to add an extra layer of paper towel. So because it's 2 layers, you could probably cut a little layer, put a paper towel in there, and take it out every time you get home. Happy crafting, and wash your hands. Bye.